Hello, grade 7s. So I had a request, or a few requests actually, to do a bit of a review with some of this algebra work. So we'll start with the table of values here. Now, I chose to start at 0 and work my way up to the number 4 for our x values. I really could have chosen any values here. I could have started at -2 and worked all the way up to 100 if I wanted to. But since for the most part we're starting at 0 and going to 4 or 5, that's what I'll do for this video. Now what we do is a little bit of substitution. So this is the equation that we're going to use for this table. 2 times the x value plus 3. So what I'm going to do is replace x with 0. So what this here says is 2 groups of x. So if I put a 0 in there, that would be 2 groups of 0 plus 3. Well, I know that 2 groups of 0 is 0, plus 3 is 3. If I put a 1 in for x, 2 groups of 1 is 2, plus 3 is 5. If I put a 2 in there, 2 times 2 is 4, plus 3 is 7. If I put a 3 in there, 2 groups of 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9. And if we look at this, this is a linear equation, only one variable. We are increasing by 2, our coefficient. So that means this next number has to be 11, an increase of 2. So there's our completed table of values. Now I didn't show all my work, I kind of talked my way through it. For you on the assignment, you may have to show these steps depending on the question that's being asked. Now the other part of this is kind of going in reverse. On this question, you have the table of values completed, but we don't have the equation. So I have our x values. I see we're going up by 1 here, and that's great. I need to know what we're going up or down by here. So -4 to -1, that's an increase of 3. -1 to 2, that's an increase of 3. 2 to 5, that's an increase of 3. 5 to 8, an increase of 3. 8 to 11, an increase of 3. So right away, there's our coefficient. The coefficient is 3. So it's going to be 3 times x. And I need to figure out what our constant is. And our constant is found by looking at what is the value of y when x is 0. The value is -4. So we're going to put a subtract 4. So there's our equation. Now we can check that using Desmos. So I'm going to pull up Desmos here and type in this expression, 3x subtract 4. So there's our expression, 3x subtract 4. So what I'm going to look at here, I'm going to change the settings a little bit. So to change settings, you open up that wrench and you can change all this. I like to have the steps set up as 1, but that depends on the question. I'm just going to make it a little bolder so we can see that a little better. So when x was 0, y was -4. So there's our constant. So if we go back to our expression, there's our constant, -4. And there's our values, 0 and -4. So if I go back to the table, it would be 1 and -1. X is 1, y is -1. Let's see how that looks in our table. X is 1, y is -1. So that correlates. So right away, we can see that this equation does match up with that graph, and the points on the graph match up with this table. So that's a bit of a refresher, going from the equation to make the table of values, and then in reverse, going from the table of values to make the equation. Remember the terms. We have our constant, which is when x is 0, what is our y value? Or in other words, where does the equation, the line, cross the y-axis? We also have our coefficient, which is our rate of change. How much are we increasing or decreasing by? When x is increasing by 1, what is y increasing or decreasing by? And x is our variable here. Now I can make this an equation by just going y equals, but that is for next week. We'll start solving these types of equations. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. And if you have any questions, please send me an email.